Kyosuke sat on the couch as he watched the evening news. It was one of the few times he had gotten the chance to be home. His job wasn't as demanding as it used to be. Oh no, it was hectic back in the old days. So much so he hardly got to see his wife or children. His wife always joked that he didn't even live in the house, and technically she wasn't wrong. Months could go by before Kyosuke would ever get a chance to see his children, Sota and Hori, respectively. But even still, he tried to be as present of a father as he could. But for all the days he missed, that was on him. Days that he could never get back, but he was fighting a very important battle. A battle for mankind. You see, without getting into specifics about what Kyosuke does for a living, he worked for people higher up. More higher up than even the Japanese government. No, he worked with a special agency. I wouldn't bother telling you the name because, quite frankly, it's not important. It wouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, and it's no agency you've ever heard of. But they worked in a similar way to keeping the peace among those on Earth, and specifically in their country. Of course, Japan had mutants, but mutants were all around the world. It just seemed as though it was more volatile in the United States. However, Japan came up with its own way of dealing with the mutant crisis. You see, without making it public knowledge, there were sections of Japan that were divided, certain communities that were made specifically for mutants. Of course, they were monitored, and from time to time, there would be a little bit of ruckus. There were some rowdy mutants who didn't know how to behave, and as such, they were discreetly taken out of the scene. But still, Japan tried to make sure that mutants and humans could at least coexist to a certain degree. So you could imagine how dumbfounded they were when all of a sudden, all the mutants they had been monitoring lost their powers. How exactly were they supposed to take a situation like this? Of course, they ran tests, they continued to study, but after 3 years' time, when powers just weren't returning, it was decided that they were now going to just integrate them into regular society. You could say it was a glorious day to say the least, because now everyone was united as one. And as such, the goings-on of daily life, worrying about other things, became the new norm. Slowly but surely, the idea of mutants became nothing more but a distant memory, even in just 10 years' time. Little more than fairy tale and anything else. All the horrors of the mutant menace and things of that nature, no, that was left over to the West. But still, for Kyosuke, he always wondered what it would have been like if his children had been mutants, how he'd deal with it as a whole. And now, surprisingly enough, he got his chance to answer that question. He would never forget the day when the professor came to his home. He knew exactly who he was right away, and he knew what he was dealing with. When dealing with a telepath and a mind reader, only the best of trained can go up against them. Kyosuke had trained his mind to be able to think without thinking. In a way, he was able to only allow the professor to see within his mind what he wanted him to see. Of course, he could tell that the professor was trying to use a form of hypnotic suggestion to allow Hori to attend his newly made school for the gifted. He already knew about the X-Men and what they got involved in, so he had to weigh his options. On one hand, he wouldn't say that he was the most fond of the idea of Hori getting involved in the likes of something like this. But at the same time, he knew that something like this was just a little bit above his pay grade. Besides, from the intelligence he had been able to gather, the X-Men weren't bad people. They were just people trying to make a difference in the best way possible. Although you could say that a situation like this wasn't really getting them off on the best foot For now, at least, he decided to trust them. After all, it wasn't just Hori that was involved in this situation, it was Miyamura as well. When they left, Kyosuke decided to reveal just a little bit of the truth, assuring Miyamura and Hori that he'd be watching over them, protecting them when need be. He was aware of where they were going to be staying, and from time to time, he'd pay them a visit, unseen of course, and he could watch as the children were progressing well, getting stronger, learning to master their powers and abilities. But that left him wondering, what exactly were they going to do? In all likelihood, this was just a form of self-protection than anything else. And for some of these kids, it was much needed. But still, though, it made him question, how long were they going to keep this up? How far into the rabbit hole were they going to go? Were they going to try to be the new X-Men? Could more mutants start cropping up? All of this had to be taken into consideration. On this day in particular, Kyosuke decided to go out. He was just going to go for an evening stroll to clear his mind as he normally did, enjoy a pack of cigarettes, and probably buy a new pack. Not too long after, as he went into a convenience store, he saw him. The man that had accompanied the professor. The man that called himself Logan, but Kyosuke knew better. As he walked up beside him, as he was picking up a pack of beer, Kyosuke couldn't help but smile and crack a little laugh as he stood next to him, grabbing a case himself. I didn't think that'd be your favorite brand, Professor. Huh? Logan looked to see that it was that man, Hori's father. Though I gotta say, I never pegged the Wolverine to be a Corona guy. The hairs in the back of Logan's neck began to stood up. This guy knew who he was. So, you. Yeah. How about you come with me? I'll pay for the drinks. I promise. I don't mean you any harm. The two men sat in a park. The sun was beginning to set, and the children, for the most part, were going home. The men taking the time to enjoy a couple of beers. How much do you know? I know enough. I take it you worked with the government then. I work somewhere in that department. Based off of everything you know, why did I let my daughter go with the likes of you? Well, for what it's worth, I like to trust that you guys have good judgment when it comes to these sort of things. It's not like I would know how to help a mutant. After all, I'm not one. And up until a couple of months ago, none of my children were either. I've seen how she's progressed. You've done a good job with training her, with training all of them. I'm thankful. You shouldn't thank me. They shouldn't be involved in this. But what happens, happened. You can't go back. You can't change it now. All you can do is move forward, Kyosuke said. Though, I do gotta say, you all should be careful. What's the status in this country? So far, we haven't really been keeping task of any mutant developments. All in all, that's become a job for just a handful of people, and I just so happen to be in that handful. As far as we're concerned, the mutants are for the most part gone. Though still, I've been tasked with the likes of monitoring in case anything changes. So you could say that I'll just be the one that's watching over you guys. And I should say, for what it's worth, I have some information that you might want to know. Logan looked at him curiously. If this guy had what he thought he had, then anything he could tell him would be useful. Okay, what exactly do you know? Kyosuke finished off the last of his cigarette and took another swallow of beer before continuing. About 5 years ago, the mutant known as Magneto paid our country a little visit. Logan's eyes darted directly towards Kyosuke, a bead of sweat moving down his head. What? Magneto was here? Mm-hmm. Came here about 5 years ago. And what did he want? We have no clue. Believe me, we monitor him like a hawk. He moved around from city to city for a bit, as if he were looking for something. But we had no idea what it was, and just as quickly as he showed up, he left. Did he have his powers? Did he hurt anyone? He didn't do anything. Believe me, we would have been ready to fight him if need be. Although given how he's an Omega level, who knows how good we could have done. Still though, it was kind of surprising to see him back out in the open. And just like that, he vanished soon after. There have been sightings of Magneto all around the world. You're telling me you guys haven't been able to keep up with him? We've tried, but we couldn't tell for sure. Even the professor using his powers, he wasn't able to find him. So, Magneto's found a way to become invisible, even to the great Charles Xavier using Cerebro. I gotta say, that's a scary thought. Beyond scary. We don't know if anyone else kept their powers besides the two of us. We don't know if he's recruiting allies or anything of that nature. The Brotherhood of Mutants, a rather tricky bunch to deal with. Though in the end, maybe, he's just on a bit of a soul-searching journey. Logan simply grinned at that. If you know him like we do, then we both know. The last thing he's doing is trying to go on some soul-searching retreat. He's after something. Just like you all. I've given you some information, so now I want to know. How did all of this get started? What do you know about what gave these kids their powers? Logan would then go into a brief summary of everything that happened. About how the Scarlet Witch had become nothing but a vestige of energy, and how it somehow descended into Japan, and not only that, but how it ended up causing the children to be gifted the powers of X-Men that came before them. Of course, all of this was definitely news to be taken in, and even more so, the idea of dealing with an omnipresent Scarlet Witch who could bestow mutant powers at random. And you don't think she's left the country? Kyosuke asked. So far, no. Her signature pops in and out from time to time all over. Once we find a fixed location, our plan is to drag her out from wherever she's being kept, or from whatever other plane of existence she's stuck in, apparently. I see. So, this is Operation Rescue the Witch. We haven't really put a name on it, but yeah. Operation Rescue the Witch. That's basically the idea. Once we're able to pull her out, hopefully the professor can help her undo what she's done. The kids can give up their powers, and all of this can go back to normal. I see. To have someone as powerful as the Scarlet Witch on your side. Though I have to say, with Magneto running around, what do you think will happen if he finds out what you're up to? Chances are he's going to want to get to his daughter, whether he has powers or not. It doesn't matter. we're not going to let the world plunge back into chaos like it used to. So I take it you're going to try to give back the powers to the other X-Men, the previous X-Men. Who else gets their powers, though? Logan hadn't really thought about that. We haven't really questioned it yet. Right now, we're just trying to get everything back to the way it was before. Yeah? But Kyosuke looked at him stirringly. What exactly do you mean by before? I don't know in case you guys have forgotten, but a lot of former mutants have come at peace with not having their powers. Don't you think it'd be wrong to force that back upon them? Their powers were forcibly taken in the first place. That's true. But look at what's happened now. For the most part, we've managed to get things back to some state of normalcy. People aren't suspecting each other anymore. People are attempting to lead normal lives. If we bring back the mutants, if you bring back the mutants, don't you think you'll only bring back all the trouble and pain that came with it? It's not like everyone's going to want their powers back. But what about the ones that do? What about the ones that want their powers back that don't deserve them? All I'm saying is that you're playing a very dangerous game right now, Logan. I'm not saying that you're playing God, but in effect, you guys kind of are. You're gonna basically find the mutant power stockpiling jackpot, and you're gonna hand out powers to those who you deem are worthy or deserving. That can lead to a very dangerous situation. I'm just thinking you should all be mindful of it. I'm surprised you haven't thought that far ahead. Of course, Logan hadn't really thought much of it, but then there was the professor. Did the professor plan to do that? Was he basically going to pick and select who could and who couldn't get back their powers? In the end, was that really a bad thing? After all, not every mutant used their powers for the greater good of mankind. In the end, it'd probably be for the best if they never got their powers back. But in the end, did they really get to make that choice? Were they allowed to decide who could and who couldn't be a mutant, even if they were one before? All of that had to be taken into consideration, and it left Logan with a lot to think about. Kyosuke, however, would take his leave as it was getting late, and his wife was going to be making dinner, so he decided to head home. I'll try to help you guys out in any way that I can, but I should warn, not everyone that works with me shares in my ideals. Quite personally, I like to see the best of a bad situation. I like to see the best in people, but not everyone feels the same. So you should know, if anything happens, if there's an incident that can't easily be explained away, it's going to put you guys back on the radar. And there's only but so much I can do at that point. Keep your head on a swivel. Logan would thank him for the advice. So there was an organization, maybe not the Japanese government specifically, perhaps a subordinate branch, Black Ops, something along those lines, a group that was monitoring any sort of mutant activity. By the time Logan returned back to the mansion where the kids were, safe to say, they were adjusting to their new roles as the X-Men. They would go out in shifts, patrols, usually in teams of 4 or 5 or whatever the situation called for. They helped out in various ways, from dealing with accidents and things of that nature. For the most part, it was just small-scale stuff, but still, they were making a positive imprint as being X-Men. He was proud of them. They were taking the initiative, really making a change. A few of them were coming back from recently helping with a car crash situation, helping to get everyone to safety and evacuating before any more damage could have been done. In the meantime, Logan had to go and speak with the professor to tell him about what he had learned from Kyosuke. Of course, he could hardly believe it himself. Eric was here? That's what he said. The professor would put on the Cerebro helmet that he had brought with him. Thankfully, it was able to be mobile now, and he could use it to try to search throughout the world. However, despite scoping out the entire area, he couldn't find them. Damn it. I still have no trace of him at all. If he's truly out there, he's figured out a way to cloak himself, to hide from me. That can't be good. He wouldn't be hiding from us unless he was up to something. You think it's possible that he didn't lose his powers? And that maybe he's not the only one? Perhaps, but we'd have no way of knowing. Whatever he's up to, it can't be good. No, it cannot. How are the children? Logan asked. They've been progressing well, going out on small missions and rendezvous of sorts. They've been helping with any sort of distress that's been occurring. So far, they've helped with mountain rescue, with any sort of accidents or incidents, and stopping any forms of small and petty crime. Thankfully, they're able to move fastly and swiftly enough that no one questions who they are for too long. But it's only going to be a matter of time before people start talking about it. They'll be dubbed, and they'll be most likely instated as the X-Men once again, Logan said. And once people learn that the X-Men are back, that'll also mean more about the mutant outcry. Logan, you have to look at it more positively. So far, the children have only done nothing but good. I have reason to believe that when it does become public knowledge, they won't be looked at as menaces anymore. They'll be looked at as heroes. I assume that's the goal you've always wanted? Of course. I feel as though it's our best chance. The best chance for a new start. To set things right. But still, I really wish I knew where he was. At least to know that whatever he's doing, it's not going to get in the way. Well, you know how Magneto is. Once he has his mind set to something, there's no changing it. Chances are he's probably been looking for Wanda just as we have. Except we actually have a means of finding her. Well, if we're going to do it, then we need to do it fast. He's already come to this country once. Chances are he'll try to come back again. Especially once he learns that mutants have returned. In a way of speaking. By the way, have you made any progress? Yes, we have. The professor would wheel over to a map displayed on a large screen and showing it to Logan with various red dots all over Japan. There were smaller ones scattered all around, but in a circular motion, the closer you went to the center, the larger the dots got. These have been the sporadic appearances of her vestige of spirit. These are places where I've sensed her for a few moments, only for the signature to disappear. In a way, it's kind of like a cell phone tower that's picking up relays from a phone, pinging at different locations. However, the signatures get stronger the deeper they go into the center of it all. And it all leads to here. Kyoto? Precisely. Kyoto, Japan. I believe that the next nexus point where she's going to appear will be in Kyoto. Alright? So what exactly is your plan going to be to pull her out? I can't do it on my own. I'm going to need help. That's why I'm going to need the assistance of Mai, Hori, and Misaki. The three of them are going to combine their powers and pull together. They're going to assist me in locking on to where her spirit is, in a way of saying. Once we're able to hold her in one location with our mental energy, that's where Taiga's going to come in. She's going to use her blade to cut through that nexus point, to open the barrier that's dividing her in whatever plane of existence she's in from ours. And once that's done, we'll work on extraction, and we're going to pull her back into our world. We're going to have to move through the eye of the storm, in a way of saying. The eye of the storm, huh? Kyosuke called this Operation Rescue the Witch. Well, he's not wrong about that. So what's the worst case scenario? In all likelihood, when we attempt this, the same storm that happened back then on New Year's Eve, the storm that occurred as a natural phenomena that gave the kids their powers, a violent one is bound to follow. We're going to have to evacuate all of the civilians and get them out of harm's way. In the worst case, we don't need any more mutants to be born in this situation. Once the situation in the area has been secured, we'll focus on extraction and pulling her out. And then from there, we'll proceed to the next phase. Hopefully being able to finally put all of this to an end. Logan liked the sound of that plan. It seemed as though the professor had everything worked out, like he knew exactly what they needed to do and was actually working towards fixing it. Alright, when exactly do we have to start on this plan of ours? It's going to begin on the first week of spring. They say that that's when the sakura flowers come into bloom. I believe that is when the next nexus point is going to occur, and that is when we make our move. That's almost 2 weeks from now. Yes, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to make a move to rescue Wanda, and we're going to bring this to an end. Once the plan was confirmed, both Logan and the professor would speak to the children. Of course, they had only just become X-Men all but a month ago, and now, just as quickly as the team had been brought together, it seemed as though it was about to come to an end. So, we're finally going to be going for the rescue, huh? Tomo said. Seems so. We're going to be able to pull her back out, Miyamura would say. But are we sure it's going to work, though? Akari asked. I mean, Jiro would put his hand on her shoulder. It'll be alright, Akari. I'll be there to protect you. We all will, Logan said. I've watched you all grow in just a few short months. You've had your struggles, yes, but you've also been able to overcome as well. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, you're all ready for this. It's going to work. Once we're able to pull Wanda back out into our world, we can move on to the next phase of getting your lives back and putting all of this behind you. Everyone nodded and agreed. Hori, holding on to Miyamura's hands, she looked at him with a kind and warm smile. While she had gotten used to her powers, at the same time she'd be lying if she said they weren't unnerving at times. And pretty cool. But in the end, this was for the best. It was for the best that all of them would be allowed to go back, allowed to be normal, to live their lives the way they used to. They could put this whole situation behind them, and they had the chance to finally do it. And for that, they were going to give this their very best. In the meantime, in a hotel in France, an older man looks out of the window, staring off at the Eiffel Tower, adorned in lights. The older gentleman held a couple of silver coins in his hands. They floated, moving all around his fingers. Controlling metal was nothing more but a mere whim for him. Even in his older age, his refinery for his skills were far more than even the best of mutants in their prime. He'd gone by many names and aliases, although the one he was most fond of was Magneto. The door would open as a man dressed in black would arrive and have some keen information. And so, what is it? It seems that your old associate, Mr. Charles Xavier, he's found new students. Magneto turned. New students? Yes, in Japan. He's taken up a new batch of students, sir. I see. And I take it these students are, yes, they are gifted children indeed. Ah, Charles. Back at it again, looking to corrupt and twist more young minds with his foolish ideals. Though I have to say, Japan, I visited there years ago. Is that all that he's there for? Actually, no, sir. We have reason to believe he's not just there for the children. We have reason to believe that he's looking for her also. The floating coins would quickly be smashed into tiny little metal balls. So he's looking for my daughter. Do you think that he's come close to finding her? We have reason to believe so. That incident that occurred on New Year's Eve, that strange phenomenon, that storm, from what we've been able to gather, we have reason to believe that your daughter was the cause of it. That she was the cause for these new mutants to arrive. So, that's why he's gathering them up. He's going to use them to try to bring back my daughter. And once he's done so, he'll have access to everything. How would you like to proceed, sir? I can't let him get away with that. No. I know Charles. All that power in his hands. He'll think he's making the right decision, but I know better. He's going to try to play God to decide who will and who won't be a mutant. And chances are, he'll use her to finally sift me out. And I've managed to keep myself hidden from him for all this time. How many children? 16, sir. 16. Very well, then. There aren't really many people I can call on my behalf. But, thankfully enough, there are two individuals who I believe will be more than sufficient. I need you to get me in contact with these individuals. Pay them whatever is needed. I will require their assistance. Yes, sir. Who will be your contacts? Bring me the ones known as Sabretooth and the Juggernaut. As you wish, sir. This concludes X-Men The Next Generation. What If Wolverine Trained the X-Men? Season 1, Part 8. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue with Part 9 of What If Wolverine Trained the X-Men. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.